What if every single person you meet has a lesson specifically for you? You know, for a long time, I've had this kind of mantra of wake up, wake up. You know, years and years and years ago, I was trying to map out what are you going to do with your life, Jonathan? And wake people up is one of the phrases I wrote down. And then I stepped back from it. It took a while, but I stepped back from it and I said, wake you up first, because it's so hard to wake someone else up if you're not awake. There's an old cliche, actually a Latin cliche, nemo dat quod non habet. It means you can't give what you don't have. It's hard to give someone passion if you don't have passion. You know, so I travel a lot, and so often on my travels, I'll be thinking, like, what if each person I meet has some lesson, has some perspective, has some experience, has some story, has some way of seeing the world that would be an amazing gift if I could find it. You know, so I'm driving on an Uber in Dallas, Texas, years ago, and it was a super, super hot day. I think it was 100 degrees still at like 9 p.m. And I start talking to my Uber driver on my way to the hotel. I'm giving a keynote speech the next morning. And we started with the normal questions. What brings you to Dallas? How long you been doing Uber or whatever? You know, and then I like to ask some questions that get people to really tell you how they're doing. You know, and my Uber driver, Josh, starts telling me a little bit about himself. And it turns out he was a professional skateboarder. And he built a name and a brand and a reputation. And he got to travel around the world as a professional skateboarder. And he had sponsors. And he eventually had his own skateboard brand. And but it was with a company. And I said, wow, it sounds like a lot of fun. And he said, well, it was fun, but sometimes it was a little too much fun. I said, what do you mean too much fun? He said, well, I ended up partying too much. I said, oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. And, we continued to talk, and he said, yeah. And then he said, I got this wake-up call. He said, I never knew my dad. He tells me his father was in prison. He never met him. And he said, I had a son, and my son was a year and a half old, and he said it was February afternoon, evening, and he's sitting, and his son hops up on his lap, and he said, I had just, been drinking. He said, I would drink a 12-pack or more of beer day after day after day after day. And he said, I had been drinking a little too much, and I was, doing what I was doing, thinking about the thoughts that I tended to have, and I was thinking, this, that. And then he said, it started to hit me that I got this little guy. He named his son Flip. Of course, professional skateboarder with a son named Flip. And he said, Flip hops up on my lap. He's a year and a half old. And I'm looking at Flip and I'm thinking, like, my dad was never here for me. I never met my dad. And he said, as I'm looking at Flip and I'm thinking like, I don't have to go down that path. I could be a different dad than that. I don't have to spend my life consumed with anger and bitterness and resentment for the dad I didn't have. I can take that and I can make a choice. I And I said, oh, wow. And he said, yeah, I chose that moment. He said, it was February 21st, 2011. He said, I made the choice that moment. I said, I will not be that dad. I will be the dad that I wish that I had, to Flip. And he cold turkey gave up all the partying lifestyle. I said, oh no, wow. He said it was hard beyond what you can imagine, because my whole life centered around this. I'm traveling, and the people I hung out with, he said, all of my closest relationships, all of my time-consuming activities fed into that. He said, I had to start cutting ties. And he said, that's why I'm doing this now. That's why I'm on this. That's why I'm driving for Uber. He said, because I even cut the ties with the skateboarding brand. And he said, and I eventually said, I'm going to start my own skateboarding brand that'll stand for helping people make those kind of choices over and over and over. And he said, but I wanted to start it with no connections, with no strings, with no other pulls, with no other agendas. So he said, I started it with my own money, which I didn't have. And he said, and that's why I'm driving Uber, so that I can help pay for some of that stuff, to pay off the loans to get the business started. And Josh doesn't drive for Uber anymore, but he did it to help give him the flexibility to build that brand around the mission that he knew he was pulled to pursue. I said, Josh, what's going on here in Dallas? Because this was a few days after, you may remember, it was I think 2016 when there was an assassination of police officers in Dallas. Somebody was waiting for them and called in a crime that didn't happen and was waiting for them, and then shot, I think, 5 police officers in Dallas. I said, it seems like there's this incredible tension, there's this incredible hatred, I guess, and anger. And he said people get confused sometimes. He said, just like I was, people get confused. They think it's out there. They think it's them. They think the battle, the war, the real struggle is out there between us and them, whoever the us are and whoever the them are. He said, but it's not. He said, it's always in here. It's always in here. It's always in the little choices to choose love or not, to choose to forgive or to choose to hate, to choose to be bitter and resentful, or to choose to forgive, to choose a different path. And that's what Josh did. And that's what Josh shared with me. What a gift. What a gift. What if every person you encounter has some lesson, some perspective, some experience, some story to share with you to help change the way you see the world and your role in it?